Hi, welcome to Seymour's World. I assume you haven't seen me for the last 3 weeks because I have been gone. We were on the East Coast working with CrossFit in Florida as they're expanding. One of the original founders of CrossFit is expanding overseas, and he wants to go to China, and he's asked me to help him. Then we went up to Vancouver, Canada, and into Whistler, where if any of you have gone zipping, if you've heard the term zip trek or zip lining, the originator is from Canada. And Charles Steele is also expanding into China, into an area called the Secret Garden, which will have the 2022 Winter Olympics, would you believe, in China. And they want to install a number of zipline systems. So we're working with him. But I'm back here in Hawaii, and I'm so glad to be home. Too cold, too wet, and there's nothing like being back in our own bed. So from all of us to all of you on the mainland, you could stay there. I'm going to stay right here. 2015, it's going to be a terrific year. We're going to have lots of new guests, lots of new controversies, just like we did in 2014. And I hope a lot of you participate. Call in to our show, write me emails, send me texts, and I promise you we will get to them. Because I feel that our program should be inclusive. It should be you and me and our guests, and just making sure that it's a lot of fun too. So many of you have said I should have more music on the show, and I promise I will. A lot more Hawaii artists who are up and coming, who are joining our Make 'em Smile program. So they will be with us as well, and hopefully we will jumpstart them or kickstart them into a career in music here in the state of Hawaii and on the U.S. mainland. We will have lots of analysis, a lot of prognostication, and a lot of forward-looking statements. So that's what we're going to plan for 2015. And what better way to kick it off? I'm introducing you to one of Hawaii's, or maybe Hawaii's, most foremost attorneys, Mark Davis. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you on our show. You know, your resume is so long, it's pages. And I have to literally read everything about you. But you have had an unbelievable career. You are recognized as one of the best trial lawyers in Hawaii and the United States. For 30 years, you've represented injured victims throughout Hawaii and done a great job of that. You're listed in the Best Trial Lawyers of America and the International Academy of Trial Lawyers. You're one of only 100 lawyers in the United States. I'm not making that up, right? Yeah. One of only 100 lawyers in the United States that is listed in the Inner Circle of Advocates. That is really something, and I think you're obviously very proud, and you obviously have done a great job, but I think one of the big things, as we've talked in the past, is you like to help the little guy. That's always been a thing for Mark Davis, and I have to tell you, I'm all for the little guy, but I'm also for the business guy. So we are going to be a little controversial today, if that's okay with you, but okay. I'd love to hear your point of view of what's going on. We already have a number of questions from our viewers because our PR went out about Edward Snowden, and you have, what date is that?
That's February 14th. And it starts in the morning at 9:30.
Where's it going to be?
And it's going to be at the Convention Center. And the day is going to begin with a screening of Citizen 4, which was just nominated for an Academy Award, but it's the real-time documentary that has Snowden presenting the disclosures that he did and as events unfold. And following the screening of the movie, there'll be a panel discussion, and Edward Snowden will be present via a video link from Moscow, together with his lawyer who's coming in from New York City. And there will be a panel of people that will be involved in engaging him and the panel in conversation. It's going to be moderated by Dean Avi Soifer, who is the Dean of the Richardson School of Law. So it's going to be a good turnout. Tickets are only $5. And if you can't afford it, you can come for free.
Wow.
So we're very excited about it. This was we have been involved in sponsoring what we call the Davis-Levin First Amendment Conference since 1997, and throughout the years, when we find a hot-button issue, that is interesting. We feel like some of our charitable dollars ought to go to bringing these events and these people to Hawaii for an exposure and for a conversation. It's not any particular agenda. It's all about opening it up for conversation, questions from the audience. We had, for example, Justice Scalia appear at one of our conferences in his first public appearance following his decision in Bush versus Gore.
Right.
And we've had Kenneth Starr debate the national president of the ACLU. We had whistleblower Daniel Ellsberg on our last one. And so these are all issues that are controversial and hopefully to encourage a little civil conversation, which sometimes is so lacking in our cable news or other types of.
What is your personal opinion, or am I giving too much away before the
about
show?
Snowden?
Yes.
Well, I have a lot of serious questions about what he did and the ramifications of what he of how he did it and how it may have impacted security and terror. I think that he was bound under an obligation to comply with certain laws and certain secrecy laws, and so what he has done is very, very in my mind, very controversial.
But Mark, you represent the openness of society?
I
right?
do.
And so
and,
here you're saying that maybe it shouldn't be so open.
Well, I'm saying that in any case in which privacy is an issue, and there are certainly some things that were aired by his disclosure that were important, that was information that arguably the government should have informed people about. But in this particular instance, as I understand it, there was a great deal of involvement by Congress and oversight and so on. The full extent of the disclosures might have very well revealed certain things that should have been revealed.
But
and that gives rise to the conversation and the debate, because I think that the point of view of the documentary, which is a fascinating, unusual documentary because it doesn't capture an event in the past, but records events as they unfold, certainly takes the point of view as a kind of a person who understands what it will mean to him personally. And of course, he is banned forever in the United States, otherwise he will be prosecuted. So,
before we go any further, I'm getting the first call in, the date and the time and the place again.
Okay,
please.
so this is the Davis Levin First Amendment Conference. You can get more information by going to acluhawaii.org, which is the website, which will have all the information and the registration.
Do it again, please.
acluhawaii.org. And that will give you a place to email a registration and to buy a ticket. And we've sold hundreds of tickets in the first literally few hours since this was announced a few days ago. So it's going to be an interesting day, an interesting conversation. It's going to eat up a Saturday morning, but I think it's going to be well worth the effort. And so I encourage people to attend. Okay. It is going to be televised. We think it's going to be streamed, and from our feedback so far, there's been an enormous amount of interest.
Mark, before we get into too much detail on legal issues, we have to talk about you as an individual. Remember, you've been here for what, 30 years?
I've been here for 40 years.
40 years.
I came here in 1973 originally.
Well, I came in 1976, and I think we have to have full disclosure. I am not your client. I have never been injured.
You are not my client. You are my tennis partner occasionally, but I won't announce publicly that you cheat. But I will say that we have known each other for many years, and some days, hopefully, you'll be able to afford me as your attorney.
I hope not. I have to say, though, since you did open it up, and like we're in a court, I'm allowed, I guess, once you've opened up a subject, right, tennis, I can ask you a couple of questions about it. You have been called the gazelle. That is one of the terms we use for you on the court.
Well, that suggests agility and speed and precision. Yes, that's a name that I think you
I was the
for
one
me.
who coined that phrase. And as you could see, ladies and gentlemen, one day he might be my attorney. So I'm just trying to get on his good side here, because believe me, he is no gazelle. But I do have to say, and I wish I could do it on air, but I think it'll probably be improper. I would like to take off my shirt and show all the marks from all the tennis balls that you've thrown at me or hit me with or attempted to hit me with, because I seem to be your target.
None
I'm
of
a
which
big
have been
target.
undeserved.
Oh, thank you very much. But it's been a wonderful time playing tennis with you. We really have had a great time. Mark is one of the most humble people who come onto the tennis court. He's always there on time. And I have to say, we have so much fun because it's a bunch of guys every Saturday morning, sometimes Tuesdays and Thursdays as well, where we enjoy bantering with each other. And we don't care who you are, what you own, or where you are in your life. This is the time to just let it all out and have some fun.
We always say that Seymour's effectiveness is not his forehand, it's not his backhand, but it's his tongue.
Oh, thank you very much, and I take that as
a compliment,
as a
absolutely.
big compliment, a big compliment. Anyway, let's get back to what we're really here for, because I think we've insulted each other enough.
Okay, we can
for
stop
the first few months. One of the issues I have, Mark, is looking at Hawaii and what's happening in the legal system here. And I mentioned to you, we have a number of questions that have come up already. Is our legal system at par or better than most of the other legal systems?
Well, I think one thing that's quite unique about Hawaii, and one of the things that I've always appreciated about practicing in this state, is it's a relatively small community, and the attorneys generally know each other, and we frequently know the judges, and the judges know us. So that provides for a degree of an accountability with regard to your behavior and the things that you do. And every time I open my mouth in court, I know that I have to, that my entire integrity is based upon the veracity of what I represent to the court. And if I don't have, and I think most attorneys understand that and know that. And to me, it creates a place that is much more civilized for the purposes of engaging in litigation. And we have open, we have a, you know, when I first moved here, we had a system of political appointment for judges. So after you were in the legislature for a certain number of years, you were appointed by the governor to be on the bench, regardless of your qualification. Now we have a merit selection process that people are very well vetted, and I think we have a top-notch judiciary, and I think we have a fantastic Supreme Court that is not only collegial but thoughtful and intellectual and scholarly, and and more young judges that are coming into the system. So from my perspective, the quality of the judicial system here, when compared with a lot of other states and even big cities, whether it's New York or Los Angeles, you find, I think that litigants will find themselves in an environment that is a much more civil, a much more humane place to have system, problems resolved, and an attitude about trying to get things worked out, even in the face of, very consistent issues that are posed between each other.
What about politics, Mark? Politics in Hawaii is very democratic. It's all one way, basically. Is there some type of influence peddling towards the judiciary on politics?
I think that since we've implemented this judicial selection process, which means that we have a judicial selection committee that with members that are appointed from various aspects of society, some from the legislature, some from the governor, some from the bar associations, some people who have to be non-lawyers. So it's a cross-section of our community to evaluate judges and so on. And so I think since that has happened, the influence peddle and the selection commission presents a list of, I think, 5 judges that then go to the governor for appointment. So the governor is certainly prohibited from identifying people who are not on that list, and that allows the mischief that comes from political infiltration to be less important in this state.
Mark, from the aspect of personal injury and the aspect of being an employer, and you're an employer as well, obviously, has there been a major change in the last 20, 30 years towards the employee has more rights than they did previous to that time? Do you find that what you have done in civil liberties and the work that you have done in trial work is now making employers recognize they have to be much more cognizant of the law?
Well, I think that in general, we have an employment community that is very, sensitive to new developments and certainly civil rights. I mean, historically, this state, when I, first came here, was kind of a beacon with regard to its recognition of certain types of civil rights. And I was here in the early days in the early 70s. I tried the first employment discrimination case ever tried in the federal courts here. I handled a case involving the state government discrimination against Caucasians, which was something that everybody kind of mumbled about, but it was never identified. But it was a successful case, and I think it helped to bring the issue out. And so I think that it's probably a fairly good case, because I think employers, most of which are generally smaller employers, understand the ramifications of any kind of improper behavior
or sexual
advancements, and they understand what they now have to do. And we have some very, we've historically come from a community in which labor unions and the labor movement was strongly represented by a group of lawyers as management, and that history allows a certain education to both employers and employees with regard to the evaluation of, just to keep your nose clean with regard to employment policies.
Just before we go to a commercial break, Mark, I want to ask you, or maybe it'll take too long if you want to think about it a little bit, about caps on settlements. I had a long question from a viewer who said that it's ridiculous, the millions of dollars that go. And obviously you're on the side of the guy who's getting those millions of dollars, but somebody's got to pay for it, and it's going to have to be paid out of something. Do you feel there should be caps on settlements?
Well, Hawaii is a state in which, and generally, we have very conservative verdicts and conservative jurors. And if you compare our verdicts compared to other places, ours are generally lower and much more conservative. And it's all boils down to a question of whether we can rely on our own citizenry to make the determination of valuation. And we have many people that are, two-family working couples that understand the value of money, and also the understanding of the importance of ensuring that justice is delivered and that wrong conduct is not rewarded. So in general, there's always criticisms of juries on the unusual case, but we don't have very many of them. I mean, I can't think, and most cases in the state are settled because the attorneys get together and decide that this is a fair resolution of the case, and those that are not are left in the hands of our citizens, and that's the way I think it should be.
We're going to take a short break, Mark, and then I want to get into medical malpractice, which is obviously a big part of your business and a big part of Hawaii, right? It happens to almost every doctor, the cost of insurance, etc. So we're going to be back in a minute. I'm Seymour Kazimirski with Mark Davis, one of Hawaii's preeminent lawyers and a good friend and not such a good tennis player. Be back in a minute.
Hi, I'm your host on ThinkTech Asia, Bill Sharp. I look forward to you joining us each Monday between 4 and 5 o'clock when we film right here in our studio in downtown Honolulu. The show, ThinkTech Asia, focuses on contemporary events in Asia. And by Asia, we mean anything from Hawaii, south to Australia and New Zealand, west to Pakistan, and as far north as the Russian Far East. Clearly, this is one of the most economically dynamic centers of the world, and we bring you up to date on what's going on in a whole host of countries in this very vital region. We look forward to seeing you. Aloha.
Hi, welcome back to Seymour's World. I'm Seymour Kazimirski. After a three-week absence, I'm a little rusty, and I hope you forgive me for it, but the guy sitting next to me is not rusty at all. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. Mark
Happy
Davis.
To be here. Thank you for the invitation.
It's been, I really wanted you here because, not that you're really the greatest attorney in Hawaii, but because of the Edward Snowden issue. That to me is, I'm fascinated by it. I'm going to come, obviously, and I want to hear what the world thinks about, and there's both sides, isn't there? The side of, it's right, we should know what's going on behind closed doors, and the government is peddling the story that we're going to lose agents and we're going to lose, you know, a lot of time and effort in setting up CIA people. I mean, maybe we watch too many movies. I don't know. But is your opinion, before you said that you felt that he is guilty of some form of letting out secrets that he shouldn't have. But you're believing the government that everything they're telling us is the truth?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that what he has done, and perhaps the most important thing that he has done, is he triggered a conversation about some very, very important issues, and some issues that, you know, skirt on the border of whether they should be a matter in the public consciousness about discussion. And I think that that is exactly what has been revealed and what is going to be revealed, and the full ramifications of that. We have certainly had a history in which the government, from the day they passed the Patriot Act, and opened up Guantanamo, have overstated the security concerns and have trampled on civil liberties for the purposes of, you know, protection of terror and so on. So the government, from my perspective, doesn't have a very good track record with regard to you know, watching out for balancing in an appropriate way our security concerns versus our civil liberties.
Not a very good track record?
Not a very good track record
If you look
at
at
all.
Guantanamo, it is horrible. I mean, look, talk about civil liberties. Talk about, these guys could be the most guilty guys in the world, but to let somebody sit somewhere for 10, is it 10 years now, or whatever it happens to be?
Some even more, I think.
I can't stand the thought, and I travel a lot, as you well know, and whenever I'm in Europe and in different countries in the world, guess what the primary issue is? They always bring up Guantanamo when we talk about the U.S. and, you know, our politics and what's wrong with us. It's like the biggest sore thumb that you can have sitting out there. And I don't think that the government, especially Obama, he came in with the idea that he was going to close Guantanamo. We were going to try these guys in U.S. courts, and whatever, you know, will lie, will lie. Nothing has happened, has it?
Well, I think there has been things happen. I think there's been people that have, you know, been leaving, and the population has decreased. But there's no question that those of us who have a sensitivity towards civil liberties in our Constitution are horrified at that an institution like this could exist that so violates our fundamental principles on which the country was built. And we understand, of course, that in every time throughout our history, from the Civil War on, there's always had to be compromises with regard to civil liberties and securities issues. But as we now look at, you know, some of the actions of the Bush administration and the Defense Department, in retrospect, we now know that the line was at least in my viewpoint, has been crossed in many ways. So I can understand, and I also think that with regard to the disclosures by Snowden, there's definitely a generation gap, because there are certain parts of our younger community that, you know, don't kind of have the sensitivity towards privacy and have an expectation that when something is shot out on the web and sent to a server somewhere, that there is an expectation of privacy. When in fact, I think many of us, you know, who were skilled in or you know, who grew up in the days of Vietnam and the Nixon enemy list, you know, don't trust anything with regard to any expectation of privacy in terms of communications that go via public forums. So there's definitely an issue, kind of a generation gap, and that's why I think that the most interesting aspect of the program that we are sponsoring, and our ability to kind of get Snowden in a conversation, is because it's going to create some discussion about this various issue. His documentary, which will be shown on February 14th in the morning, is a very, very compelling statement about his motivation and what he did and what he was trying to accomplish. And there's a lot of merit in what he says, and a lot of sacrifice in kind of a very old-fashioned sense about what he was prepared to give up with regard to his life and his freedom and his person in order to make these disclosures.
I believe, Mark, he did it with all good intentions. I really believe that he thought that the public has a right to know this.
There is absolutely no question in my mind.
It was all with good intentions, not to make money, not to move to Russia, not to, none of that stuff. He knew there was going to be something that is going to happen after he does it.
Right.
Let's, can we diverse for a
Sure.
second? Because we are going to get back. I'm very worried about what's happening on the internet and privacy. And are we going to be able to stop this peeping Tom scenario that we see with drones coming and all that business? But I want to talk about medical malpractice in Hawaii. I had a guest call in and says he believes that medical malpractice insurance and you guys are the high cost of hospital and medical care.
Well, there's been an enormous number of studies with regard to whether insurance premiums and so on have really driven up the cost. But historically, and it's been kind of proven in many, many states, that that as a cost factor in the overall economic picture of healthcare costs is minuscule, and it has not been necessarily impacted by limitations. We can talk about this issue in the macro, but I never see a client who wants to come in and talk to me about a macro. I see a client that has come in and had his life devastated by an incident that never should have happened, by someone who was completely untrained, or a mistake that with the exercise of the most obvious exercise of care should never have happened.
Could you give us an example without?
Well, I've been doing this my whole life. I had one of the cases that I think got a lot of national news that I handled was an elderly minister on the Big Island that had a back surgery and for the purposes of an emplacement of a rod, and because the surgeon who had lost his license in several other states failed to identify the parts were not present during the surgery, ended up unable to find the rod and hacked up the shaft of a screwdriver and placed it in his back, which ultimately resulted in this elderly gentleman's quadriplegia and death.
Oh,
and
my God.
He subsequently lost his license, but I had an individual that spent the rest of his life for absolutely no good reason in a wheelchair and a bed, and what came out of that, we understand, was a change in the credentialing rules for that particular hospital. This particular guy lost his license and never practiced again, as far as I've been able to tell. And so to the extent that the civil justice system provides a deterrent for wrongful conduct, it is something that can't be provided by laws or regulations and so on. It's people say there's a concern about safe medicine, that people are ordering tests and so on. And in the macro, perhaps that is true. But when you look at it, when you have the ailment that needs the additional testing for it, you need the extra CAT scan, you want it done, and because it's all about your own health.
So is the peddling of information, I keep coming back to that because I really believe that insurance companies are more at fault than the attorneys, that the insurance companies want to charge. That's their sole right, obviously, is to get what they can for the services that they provide. When you see a doctor, an obstetrician who can't practice in Molokai because his medical malpractice insurance is 60, 70, 80,000, I don't know what it is, it makes me wonder, there's something wrong with the system.
Well, of course, the insurance industry has been strongly behind efforts to limit the amount of awards. They never want to eliminate medical malpractice, because of course that would put them out of business. They only want to preserve their right to take premiums and to avoid the necessity of paying victims who, so the money that is provided by insurance companies definitely first of all, remove the burden from government sources, people who otherwise would have to go on welfare, or other types of government benefits, are instead paid by the insurance companies that insure the negligent doctors. So and when you think about that as a societal issue, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
And it saves, the government money, and any money. In fact, the law is in Hawaii and most states is that if the government, advances money for the care of people, and then there's ultimately a recovery from the insurance company, the government gets reimbursed the money that it paid out of the insurance payment. So. And that's become a and now even Medicare and Medicaid payments are reimbursed to the government out of the third-party liability. So what it does is creates a system of civil liability and personal responsibility, which is an ongoing incentive for doctors to be careful and to make sure that they don't do it. In the military, for example, where this is all money that, tort money, which is coming from the United States government, there is no incentive by the doctors. Often doctors who are involved in medical malpractice don't even know what happens to their cases. And so as a result of that, you see, systemic problems within the military medical system, which we do. We have the second largest military hospital in the world in Hawaii, and all medical hospitals, military medical hospitals, deal with the problem of systemic responsibility.
I think you're right, Mark, and I think one of the issues that we have to face as a country is that the high cost of medical care in the United States is not a single problem. It's not a problem just with lawyers or just with insurance companies or charging, $8 for an aspirin that you could buy at the corner. I think it's something we're going to have to grapple with in the socialization issue. And I think eventually medicine is going to have to be, just like Obamacare is trying to do with the healthcare system in general, it's going to have to be taken care of, because we can't continue. Do you agree in this spiral that we have in the high cost of in the high cost of care?
Well, it's we have to see how the Affordable Care Act impacts our society in general. I mean, I think this is a far-ranging, important thing to have our country, one of the leading democracies in the world, finally step up to the plate and ensure universal health care coverage for its citizens.
Mark, that's the first thing we've agreed upon. We've spoken for over half an hour.
Right. Well, I'm glad it's on tape.
Yes, it is on tape. We have to take a short break. You are with Mark Davis and Seymour Kazimirski on Seymour's World. We'll be back in a minute.
Aloha, I'm Hunter Hevelin, host of Sustainable Hawaii here at ThinkTech Hawaii. You can tune in every week on Thursday at 2 p.m. to see interviews with sustainability professionals from around the state and even further abroad, learning about activities with water management, food security, waste management, and a whole host of other fascinating opportunities to get engaged with making a greener island. So if you're interested in making the transition from consuming individuals to communities of producers, check us out every Thursday.
Hi, welcome back to Seymour's World. I'm Seymour Kazimirski. Happy New Year to all of you. I haven't seen you in 3 weeks, and it's wonderful to be back home in Hawaii. My first guest of the year, and I'm very, very proud to say a good friend, is Mark Davis. And Mark, we've had a wonderful few minutes just talking about some of the issues, and we agreed on something when it comes to the legal issue that lawyers are not the problem when it comes to the healthcare system, that we must step up to the plate. The government has to step up to the plate. And the people have to realize there's a cost involved in doing that, in being able to provide medicine and care for everybody. You agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think that all of us who are in business or in the professions or just members of the public, have to govern their life that in a manner that is both a responsible citizens. I know you're involved with this, the Let 'em Smile, Make 'em Smile program, which is fantastic, and you know, our law firm set up our own charitable foundation to support access to justice issues, and we devote a portion of our attorney's fees we earn every year to charitable causes. And I think that's just kind of a indicia of citizenship, that the more that we encourage that from people in the professions or people in business, the better off this kind of world community is going to be.
I have to say, Mark, that, and I want our audience to know this, Mark is one of the first people I go to when I want to do something for people, and you have always said yes, which I think is really very, very nice of you. I count you in that inner circle of people that if I have a project that I want to work on, and it's usually involving kids or people who need help, you are always there to help me. So I am going to make you an honorary member of our Make 'em Smile family. So
right,
I'm putting this
I'll put
on
that right
your,
next to my Fitbit there.
I'm going to put it right next to your Fitbit. Can you show everybody? There, you can just look at the camera. There he is. Mark is now part of the Make 'em Smile family. He has no idea that that's a $100,000 donation. But I'm kidding. There is no money involved in Make 'em Smile, which is one of the most wonderful things about doing things where you don't have to go out and raise money.
Exactly, right.
And in our program, all of the musicians give all of their time. Sue and I, my wife and I, we do all of the legwork. Jimmy Borges and Leah Bernstein handle all of the musicians' issues for us. But it's great, and I'm just happy that you can help us with it.
Good, I will wear this with pride.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it. Mark, I want to talk a little bit about the Edward Snowden thing, and we're going to put up, because people keep asking me what the website is, and I want to be sure that Zuri gets it right. So it's
ACLU of Hawaii, ACLUHawaii.org.
No, ACLU. There it is. Right. It's up on the screen now, and that's correct the way it is?
Right. So if you go to that website, there's a page that will allow you to reserve tickets, and gives you all the details of where it is, when it starts, and it will sell out. So by all means, do it sooner rather than later.
Good. Let's talk a little bit about the personal issues in your life right now. Now, you've been an attorney for many years. You gave us one example of which, unfortunately, was a terribly sad story about the screwdriver used by the doctor. Could you tell us any?
I came to Hawaii originally as a civil rights lawyer.
Okay, go ahead.
And I had some, I've always had some wonderful cases. I handled a class action on behalf of garment workers in Saipan that were worked by the sweatshops there, and we claimed that was basically had established a system of slavery. And
in Saipan?
In Saipan.
And by the way, there is slavery in Saipan.
And we ended up suing the major retailers like J. Crew and Ralph Lauren and others, and ultimately got recovered $28 million that we passed out to these workers. And I have handled some really terrific
Tell me about the
civil rights
foundation,
cases.
Mark, because the foundation is the one that's sponsoring the Snowden thing.
We established several years ago the Davis Levin Livingston Charitable Foundation, which is in which we donate a portion of our attorney's fees every year to build the foundation up. And we support a lot of access to justice issues. We provide a annual scholarship to law students anywhere in the country who are interested in becoming public interest lawyers. We have done the First Amendment Conference. You
brought Justice Scalia here,
right. That was part of the First Amendment Conference. We support legal organizations and things that encourage access to justice for various people. We're very big supporters of our law school. I teach there, as does my partner, and we are constantly looking for opportunities to engage in, and anything that kind of gets our interest and tugs at our heart, we are there to support.
Well, I'm involved in another group called You Are in Charge, which is my foster kids program. And we have 38 foster kids. There's over 400 that are basically, I'm not going to say out on the street, because some of them are in different living situations, and I feel that they are not well represented here. Maybe that's something we're going to talk about.
Absolutely.
And, maybe we could help them, because it's one thing to realize, okay, the system says at 18 they age out and they have to be out of a foster program where the parents are not able to get any funds for it. That's changed for this year. But at the same time, you have to realize these are kids. And where they're going to go at 18 or 19 is probably back to drugs or back to the homes that they were kicked out of or had to leave. So it behooves us to provide them with an education or some future that maybe they can get into some type of trade that allows them to stay out of jail and stay out of the elements that brought them into the situation that they're in today. So that's one thing I think hopefully we'll be able to work on. Tell me, Mark, a little bit about your personal life. You're married, you have...
I am married. I've got 2 daughters, and, 2 son-in-laws, and...
one of them was on our show?
Yes,
Jordan was on our show.
He's a screenwriter and quite successful, and...
do you represent him?
Now...
he needs a better, he needs a better lawyer than you.
Much better lawyers than I am, but I give him my advice as much as he'll listen to it, and but he's in a very exciting field. And my daughter, my oldest daughter, is a lawyer who works with our firm, and my son-in-law is a cornea surgeon, ophthalmologist, and I have 3 very verbal, very opinionated grandchildren.
I know a couple of them. As a matter of fact, I was on a plane to Washington a couple of weeks ago, and I walked back on the plane, and somebody tugs at me and she says, "Seymour, hi," and it was your daughter.
Right.
She was on the same plane as I was, and I something was supposed to happen.
Well, Elliot, who apparently was fast asleep,
yes.
Said that he had a whole comment about your tennis ability. That
well, of course, that must have come from you-know-who, right? I can imagine. Mark, one more review, if we can, on the Edward Snowden talk that's coming up. Are you opening it up for people around the world to make comment? Will there be some way to...
It will be streamed all over the world, of course, on the web. And there will be a vehicle by which people can send their questions in and their inquiries. Now, his attorney is going to be present, and I think will be moderating much of the procedure associated with, direct conversations for obvious legal reasons. We have asked, we were in touch with people in the Justice Department, the FBI, and the CIA to come and be on the program, but because he's a potential target for prosecution, they have declined.
Wow.
So, but we will have people that certainly will have a counterpoint to him, and so it'll be a lively, interesting conversation.
I can't wait.
And if somebody has an opportunity to see the movie, if nothing else, that is certainly going to be.
And
worth
the movie is?
It's called Citizen 4, and it was just nominated for Best Documentary for an Academy Award.
That's wonderful. Mark, what a wonderful time we've had. It's too short. I had another page of questions, and we can't do it. Unfortunately, our time is up. And I thank you so much for coming. I'll see you Saturday morning at the tennis court. Please make sure that your abilities are up to your mouth at the time. And I'm looking forward to seeing you there. To our audience, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been wonderful. It's been a great time with Mark. I hope to see you next week. I think next week we have China is on topic next week, and we have somebody joining us directly from Beijing who is in the tourist business. And he is developing, his name is Mr. Xi, and he is developing a $2.7 billion resort called the Secret Garden. And that is going to be outside of Beijing, about 2.5 hours north. We'll see you next week at Seymour's World on ThinkTech Hawaii. Aloha.